Alright, sometimes patients ask me, out of alcohol, smoking, lack of sleep, and lack of exercise, what's the worst for man's health? Then I actually tell them the exact order. What kind of hobbies do you have to relieve stress? Some people work out, some read books, some play games. Maybe it's because I'm Korean, but even my doctor's friends sometimes relieve stress with alcohol and cigarette. But you often hear things like, I drink and I cannot get an erection, or I've been smoking for a long time and now I cannot get an erection. So let's start with that. There are people who say they usually have no problem, but as soon as they drink, they lose their erection or cannot even get one at all. This is all about your nerve. Alcohol interferes with nerve conduction. And just think about someone you saw who was drunk. Their speech is slurred, their eyes are off, some people can't even walk properly, or they just feel completely drained. So, if alcohol interferes with nerve conduction like that, do you really think it will leave the nerve going to your down there alone? Of course not, right? Alcohol acts on parasympathetic nerves and the ones that help us get erection. So it prevents them from working. This effect gets stronger the more you drink. So it might not happen when you had just a little, but when you're really going for it, it might not work at all. The second reason is that your heart rate speeds up and hidden arrhythmia can appear. A German research team actually measured EKGs of drunk people at Oktoberfest, and the results showed their heart were beating much faster than expected. They also found many people with such a severe arrhythmia, they thought, should we take this person to ER? This really made them realize how much of a burden alcohol can put on your heart. But many people say hanging out with friends, drinking during weekend barbecue, that's how I de-stress. And if you drink and fall asleep, then you're sleeping. So you're resting, right? But there's a crucial evidence that this is actually not rest. It's called heart rate variability. This is really useful to know, so let me explain it in a bit more detail. HRV is a measure of how irregularly your heart beats. Since it measures how irregularly your heart beats, you might think a higher number is bad, but actually a higher number means your heart is beating more comfortably. A low number means your heart is under stress. Think of it again. A low variability means your heart is beating very precisely. That means your heart has a lot of work to do, which indicates your sympathetic nerve system is highly activated. On the other hand, a higher HRV means your heart is in relaxed state, and this happens when your parasympathetic nerve system is activated. But when we drink alcohol, our HRV drops significantly. This is crucial evidence that your heart is under a lot of stress, and it's an exact opposite of rest. Far from resting. You're actually pushing your sympathetic nerve system onto overdrive. In that state, it's totally normal for erection to be difficult, right? Nerve conduction isn't working well and your sympathetic nerve system is overactive. So that second stage just doesn't happen. Smoking is similar to drinking. Let's think about what happens when you smoke. The main symptoms are that your blood pressure goes up and your heart rate goes up. Your blood vessel constricted, which makes your blood pressure rise. That effect happens immediately when you smoke. What comes to mind when you hear increased heart rate and increased blood pressure? That's right, the sympathetic nerve system. If you tell a smoker that smoking is bad for them, do you know what they say, even though they know it? You might have seen this video.
You live longer by consuming a high-grain diet in the Leon Heart Study. And you're arguing against those things.
And you live longer if you smoke in some of these areas.
But
Whoa.
it's not because if you smoke, it's in spite of smoking.
No, you're wrong.
But how?
You are wrong.
You know smoking is pro-inflammatory.
Nicotinic acid is one of the best mitochondrial.
Dr. Gudge, we have to end this conversation.
The British doctor study
smoking
showed
is not
that
good. We need to at least end
British
smoking.
British doctors who smoke have a 30% less incidence of Parkinson's and dementia.
Because they die of 10 other diseases beforehand.
Honestly, some people actually mention this video, or they say it helps with my stress. Stress is worse than cigarette. I used to smoke, so I know. When you are stressed and tired and you smoke, you temporarily feel better, right? That's just the temporary relief your body gets as it temporarily returns to normal from a lack of nicotine. So it's very short-lived and doesn't help your body at all. It's not rest. Plus, there's more evidence it's not rest. There's a research where they measured cortisol level in smokers' saliva, and the cortisol level before smoking went up after they smoked. The stress hormone cortisol increases when our body is under stress. And what does stress activate? The sympathetic nerve system. So, like alcohol, smoking doesn't provide rest. It's just that puts a sympathetic nerve system burden on our body. Also, since blood vessels constrict, erection, which are a result of blood vessel relaxing, become difficult. Now, if you're a girlfriend or wife who is watching this video, please pay close attention here. Getting someone to quit smoking is incredibly difficult, right? Patients often don't even want to hear about it, but there's a way to at least get them to try to quit, okay? And that's with a sperm test. Show them the result. Smoking reduces a sperm count. Smoking also makes sperm look like a mess. People often don't realize that smoking damages sperm. Of course, it interferes with pregnancy too. I haven't tried this myself, but this is a huge on Korean social media, and apparently it's even on Amazon. So if they don't want to go to the hospital for the sperm test, maybe try something like this. So conclusion, smoking stress your body, stimulate the sympathetic nerve system, constrict blood vessel, and make sperm. What happened to a person who doesn't get enough sleep? They become irritable, right? You get annoyed easily when you work while tired. And when you are annoyed, what happens? You get even more irritable. Then what? You get stressed. And then what? You get angry. Of course, your sympathetic nerve system goes up again. So chronically sleep deprived people live in constant state of irritability, annoyance, and tension. As a result, their sympathetic nerve system tone significantly increases, and naturally their sexual function suffers. When I explain this, sometimes people ask me this. If someone asks me, I'm guilty of all of them, alcohol, smoking, lack of sleep, and lack of exercise, but I want to cut out at least one, what's the absolute worst? I actually tell them the order. The worst is lack of sleep. Many patients who come in with the erectile dysfunction are actually in good physical shape. In order to stay in shape, they have pretty high activity levels, right? So we can assume exercise isn't everything. But who are the people who often struggle with erection? Many are those who work shift job, people who work at like a Costco, emergency room staff, paramedics, firefighters, and police officer. People who work hours constantly change. 1 month is morning, next month is night, you know those type of jobs. Their sexual function gets really messed up. Their sperm also gets severely damaged. It goes beyond just erectile function. Their sperm function gets damaged too. So many people these days have a poor sleep quality, right? The very first thing these individuals can do for erectile function is to improve their sleep quality. The second worst is smoking. Smoking increases tension, makes your heart beat faster, stimulate the sympathetic nerve system, but the biggest problem is that it constricts the blood vessel. The rest are lack of exercise and alcohol, but now alcohol is a bit tricky because the right amount varies for each person. But if we are talking about a glass of wine or can of beer, I will say lack of exercise is worse. Making male hormone, making blood vessel function properly, dilating blood vessel, all these things are greatly enhanced by exercise. So I see lack of exercise as the third worst, and that means the last one is alcohol among this option. I always try to make this video short, but it never quite works out. I'll be back next week with another good information, and please hit the like and subscribe. This means a lot to us. And remember, health is wealth, so invest in yourself. This is Dr. Sean making it easy for you. See you next week.